time to get some insight into what is happening with the Missouri football program. We welcome on Plus Shirley phone lines once again, Gabe DeArmond from PowerMizzou. First of all, Gabe, appreciate your time, and I have to ask, have you ever seen anything like the final 3.5 minutes between Missouri and Oklahoma on Saturday night?
Not really. The only comp we could come up with, the game I was actually at was the Chiefs-Bills game a few years ago where, it was a little bit like that. I mean, all the touchdowns were offensive, but there was about that many points in the last 4 minutes. But no, I've never seen anything. I mean, you guys know how it is. I rewrote everything like 4 times because I had a different team winning every time something happened.
I don't know, Gabe. Chris here, by the way. Thanks for doing this, man. The fifth down game was kind of crazy, right? Although really different. That was a totally different type of situation.
Right. Like, I mean, I've been at games where, hey, it flips in the last 30 seconds or something ridiculous happens. I was at the Missouri-Nebraska game in '97 where Nebraska kicked the ball up in the air and caught it to go to overtime. But never anything that just went back and forth that many times. I mean, with 5 minutes left, we were pretty sure Missouri had it won because Oklahoma's awful on offense, as you guys have seen. And then with 2 minutes left, we were pretty sure Oklahoma had it won, and then it went the other way again.
Gabe, two-parter here because they both relate to the offense. What we've seen, what's been said publicly about Brady Cook. We've seen the injury report. Give us your perspective on whether or not he plays. And then secondly, I look at this Missouri offense, man. They have a couple backs who are really talented. They have one of the best receiver duos, I think, in the league and thus in the country. They have a good offensive line. They have a smart offensive staff. Why has Missouri not been able to score consistently without Brady Cook at quarterback?
Yeah, I'll go in reverse order because they couldn't even score consistently with Brady Cook at quarterback, to be quite honest. I mean, the offense up until that Alabama game when he went out hadn't really been very good most of the year. They hadn't scored – I don't think they've scored 30 in a game until against the Power 5 team in regulation until Saturday against Oklahoma, and even that took a defensive touchdown. I don't know. It just hasn't worked as well. The line hasn't been as good as it was last year. Brady hasn't been as good as he was last year. Theo Weiss and Luther Burden have kind of come and gone. It just hadn't worked as well, and I don't really know why. Now, as far as if Brady plays this week, I don't think they know right now. I think it's truly for the first time in a month, kind of going down to, hey, let's see what happens on Thursday and maybe even Saturday in pregame warm-ups because, he originally got hurt, obviously, in the Auburn game, comes back. Going into Alabama, he was listed as doubtful all week. I was pretty sure he was going to play, and he did. And then going into Oklahoma, he was listed as questionable all week, and I was almost positive he wasn't going to play, and he didn't. So he's back to doubtful, which, if Eli Drinkwitz's treatment of these injury reports are any indication, means he will play. But I truly don't know. I don't think they have even made that decision yet.
Gabe, it's Wes, man. Appreciate you doing this. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. Obviously, at least from my perspective, watching Carolina play Missouri over the last few years, they've been really just disruptive up front and have kind of just owned South Carolina physically on that side of the ball. That's something Shane Beamer talked about earlier this week. But a new defensive coordinator, obviously, I thought Blake Baker did a fantastic job there. What can you tell us, A, about this defense in general, and B, just any changes in kind of how they operate that you've seen compared to last season?
Yeah, the defense has been better than we all expected. But they do it a different way than they did when Blake was here. I mean, like you said, they were really good up front the last couple of years. Darius Robinson, first-round pick, and had some guys. They don't really have that dominant pass rusher this year like they have at times in the past. And also, Blake Baker, if he had any choice to blitz, he was going to blitz. And he was able to do it a lot because they had 2 NFL cornerbacks last year. That cornerback is the question mark here. So they're not blitzing as much. They're playing a lot more zone, which means they're not really getting as many, turnovers and negative plays and just game-changing plays, but they've just been really solid down to down. they have not given up. At one point, I don't know where this number stands now, but at one point they were number 2 in the country as far as allowing explosive plays. Only Texas had been better. They did allow a few early in the season, but really haven't given up much lately in terms of long plays. So it's just a defense that kind of does its job, and it's not really flashy, but again, the offense has been worse than we thought, but the defense has been better than we thought outside of one day in College Station, which, I mean, that was just nothing worked for that day.
And talking to Gabe DeArmond of PowerMizzou, and injuries, obviously the big one being to Brady Cook there, and his status for this weekend still up in the air. But I look at somebody like Nate Noel at running back transfer from App State, who quickly established himself as the leading back earlier on the season with a couple 100-yard performances. Knows he's kind of been dealing with the foot injury as of late, as production has not been quite the same. Where is he at health-wise going into this weekend?
Yeah, he's not on the availability report for the first time in 3 weeks, so I guess that's a good sign. The last couple weeks he's played, but it's really seemed like kind of a load management issue. Like he hadn't gotten a lot of carries. It's almost like, hey, we can use him for X number of plays per game, but he can't be out there and get 15, 20 carries, so we're going to pick our spots. Marcus Carroll, transfer from Georgia State, has kind of been more of like their short yardage guy. He's not a guy that's going to go get you a bunch of 20-yard runs, but he's been efficient this year. I think actually leads them in rushing touchdowns. And then Jamal Roberts is a sophomore who he's been their third down back most of the year, but then against Oklahoma, he kind of took over as the main guy and had a pretty nice night running the football until obviously he was the one that put it on the ground for Oklahoma's scoop and score that gave them the lead. But I know that's kind of, whistling past the graveyard to say, other than that fumble, which really changed the game, he had a good night.
Gabe, I don't know if there's a great way to answer this, because there may not be.
I usually come up with great ways.
Yeah. I know. That's why I'm going to ask it anyway. You come up with something. You and I were talking this week, and you pointed out something interesting. Missouri has won close games. They have lost in conference via blowout twice. The other games, they've had several close games, and they have found a way, as ugly as it's been, to win those. South Carolina, on the other hand, they've had, by my count, 3 close games, and they have won just one of them, which was the opener against Old Dominion. They had a couple close losses to Bama and to LSU. I mean, do you make anything of that? Like, does it come down to, hey, if Missouri takes this into the fourth quarter, they're going to find a way to win, or is it not that simple?
Well, it shouldn't be that simple, but we've been asking that question for a while because I think Missouri's now 8-0 in one-score games in the last 2 years. Now, that's a little misleading because last season they were, within one score of Georgia and LSU and had a late turnover, and those became 9- and 10-point games, so it's technically not a one-score game. But still, 8-0 in games that finished within one score. And Drinkwitz said that at halftime of the Oklahoma game, wide receivers coach Jacob Peeler kind of reminded them of that and said, hey, guys, we're exactly where we want to be. We do not lose these one-score games. And I think there is something to a team that simply believes it's going to win when it gets in those situations. I mean, there is no panic whether they're up 7, down 7. They have found a way to get it done almost every single time, and there's nothing analytical about it, anything like that, nothing that even really makes sense about it. But if I'm Shane Beamer, I don't want Missouri within 7 points in the last 10 minutes of the game because they do seem to believe they're going to win and find a way to get it done.
Yeah, Gabe, definitely a key to keep an eye on there. About a minute left here. What are your other keys in terms of just on either side? What needs to happen for either South Carolina or Missouri to feel pretty good about leaving this thing with a win?
Yeah, I mean, this is hardly groundbreaking, right? But Missouri has lost its starting center for the year. We're not sure about left guard Caden Green at this point. I think South Carolina has probably the best front seven in the SEC, which means they probably have the best front seven in the country. Regardless of who is playing quarterback, that guy has to be upright. And it's why I would think twice about playing Brady Cook, even if he is healthy, because I wouldn't want to endanger the last two. I don't know at this point much about South Carolina's kicking game. I know Missouri's has been shaky, which is weird for a team that has done so well in close games, but they have missed quite a few kicks this year. So I think special teams, you know, I know that's a Beamer family tradition, and Missouri's has been pretty bad this year. So that's another place where I look at it and say Missouri's got to find a way to at least just kind of break even.
He is Gabe DeArmond from PowerMizzou. Appreciate your time, and look forward to what happens on Saturday.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.